Hello and welcome to Archery Andy. Now for this video I wanted to just cover off wooden arrows. Basically I'm going to be making some. Now a lot of people when they first start archery they see people on the shooting line with longbows and American flatbows shooting wooden arrows, and some have been individually designed, some have been put together, some have just been straightforward shot ball. All of them are just as good as each other. Only word of warning is if you're new to archery, do not just go and buy dowel from the local store, you know, sort of the B&Q or home base or anything like that. You need to make sure it's spined correctly for the poundage of your bow. So go to a local archery shop or order online from any of the multitude that sell them. Okay, now this is a very, very boring one. Just got knock, feathers, point. There's a little bit of varnish on there, but it's quite a boring arrow. So what I've got is a whole load of shafts, all correct for my wife's bow, Dawn. And what I'll do is I'll get all these made up and looking, hopefully, fingers crossed, they will look amazing by the time I'm finished. They're going to look gorgeous. I'm going to be putting stain on and plenty of Danish oil to make sure they stay protected. Also got lightweight points to go on one end and some knocks at the other end. So it's going to take a couple of days to put this together. Please keep watching. Obviously the video is not going to be running all the way through it, but we will get it all sorted. Okay, so let's get started. Right, so first things first, standard taper tool, available from just about every archery shop out there, and the first shaft. So what we have to do is just, no different to a pencil sharpener really, taper the end of the shaft off, so I hope you can see that, and that is so that it can fit the taper nocks. Now that's a taper fit knock, so we just push that on there. That feels a lovely joint actually, nice and smooth, there's no rough edges or anything to that. So that I know is absolutely fine. Now the main reason I do this is so that when I stain, which I'll mark out for in a minute, when I stain I'll be staining the end as well, so there's not going to be any little gaps or anything like that. So therefore the stain will go all the way through, and also it means that this shaved area is protected from the stain by the stain as well. Okay, so once that's done, I have an interesting way of marking off each shaft. I bring in my fletching jig, and the best thing I've ever found, Zen in the Art of Archery. Not for the reading content, which is very interesting I must admit, but because that distance is exactly how much distance I want in stain. So I just put that to there, mark with a pencil, and I do this with each and every shaft. That way the distance is always correct, it's always the same. Okay, it's better than getting a ruler out and measuring just in case you move around with the ruler. So that's that bit. Next bit, of course, bit of masking tape. You don't need a lot. Then you just line it up with a pencil mark, which can be a little fiddly. There we go. You don't need loads of layers on, but make sure that that is a good seal around this end. Now I've got to do that to all 12 shafts. There's no point you watching all of that. But then what I'll do, once I've got all 12 done, I will use a stain and we'll just stain off that end. Again, I won't show it here because it's not the right place to do it in the office. So let me get the other 12 done. There we go. So that's the 12 shafts, all marked out, all masked off, ready for the coat of stain. Hold the shaft to the top and brush with a normal brush straight down with the stain. It stops the chance of it bleeding through the mask. At the same time, just doing that a few times is all it actually needs. Two coats, two light coats, build up quite nicely. That's through a lot of time, effort and practice that's gone to that. We tried ragging it, I tried different types of stain, different types of paint to get the effect I was looking for. In the end, it was, you can see that, just straightforward wood dye. It's ebony in colour for interior and exterior, protects the wood and everything else, and it'll hopefully, when you see when it's done, that it does look absolutely amazing when it's actually on there. So straightforward, stain, brush away from the masking. Okay, there you go, that's had 3 coats. Now 2 went on last night, about 4 hours between, and then another coat this morning, and again that's giving it several hours to settle down and dry, and that feels lovely and dry. So just get the last one. There we go. Now, as you can see, lovely nice line there. That looks absolutely gorgeous. Now, next stage. So these are now all taken off and ready. Next stage is using Danish oil. Okay, that's my preferred route. Other people prefer using yacht varnish or a yacht varnish white spirit mix, or a water-based, doesn't matter. It's whatever you personally choose. After a lot of experimentation, I've gone with Danish oil. So what it will now be is ragging, whereas the last one was a brush, and this one again through a lot of experimentation. And a quick tip, because of that stain, as I've noticed a couple of times, if I put Danish oil on and then rag like that, it pulls the stain down and discolours the rest of the shaft. So instead, you start with the stain there, stain the shaft, and then at the very last bit, you then put the rag on and you go that way. And you do that for the first 2 coats. So a coat will go on, be left to dry for 4 hours. Second coat will go on and be left, this time of day it's going to be overnight. Then tomorrow I will sand down with a bit of wire wool, another coat, sand down, another coat, sand down, another coat, and that's the last coat. So it's going to be 5 coats all in all, but it will look amazing when they're done. Okay, so that's that done. Here I am with a nice bunch of shafts, nicely stained at the top, 5 coats of Danish oil, all sanded down in between with wire wool before the next coat was put on, and they now feel so nice. They feel lovely and smooth, they look amazing. So let me just lay those out. Next thing to do is of course get a knock on, but where you put the knock is actually quite important. Now this is only the way that I've been shown how to do it. Don't take it as gospel or anything like that, it's just, you know, this is how I've been shown. Now obviously it's wood, it's a natural product, it's not as robust as you could say as some of the carbon arrows and the alley arrows that a lot of us shoot. So it also has grain, and part of that grain is a knot. Let's see if I put a bit of card there just so it stands out a bit better. Hopefully that will focus in. You can see the knotting on that stain, which looks fantastic. But there is a risk that if this arrow was to break on release, it would go in the direction of the knot. So if these, known as feathers, are there, it would break like that. If of course you fletch it so that the feathers are facing you, and on release it broke, it would go into your arm or your hand and be extremely painful. So I always fletch with any feathers like this at the top, depending on which way you draw. Okay, so for my wife who's right-handed, so she'll draw here, I will position the knock there so that the cock feather is here and the feathering is up here. So therefore she will always knock it on the string the way I want her to, so that if it went on release it would go up and away from her, taking the danger away from her. So obviously that's how I do it. How you do it is up to you. I've seen plenty of people that just buy the shafts, 2 coats of varnish, throw on some feathers, knocks, points, and they're shooting them. That's absolutely fine. I've never, in all my time shooting, I've never once seen an arrow explode on release. I have seen them explode when they've hit the target, quite a lot actually of those, and even though you shouldn't, I do find myself laughing. Even the other week when it was actually one of the whites that exploded on target. If you want to see the remnants of it, have a look at the Valentine shoot on the channel. So what I need to do now is get these knocks set. All I do when I put them on, I just use a little bit of super glue, which is absolutely fine. So there's no point in you watching me doing that. I'll get all the super glue on these. I will then get them tapered at the end, just using the tapering tool that I used to do the knock side, and absolutely equal on their length. So, and all that is you just start with the shortest one, then you shorten everything else to meet up. I mean, the difference between the shortest and the longest is about 1 millimetre, but I like to be fairly precise. So, I'm going to get on with that, and then I'll get back to you with the next stage, which will be the feathers. I do points last. The main reason I'm doing points to last is because they're sharp, and I'm fed up cutting myself with the things and poking myself and ending up with blood everywhere because of them. So that's why I do the points last. So there we go, feathers are now on, so all the fletching's being done, so a little bit time consuming but worth it. Also I find it quite relaxing personally. Now I've gone with a brown feather on these. They look beautiful, especially against the stain of the wood and even the Danish of the rest of the shaft. Now what I've done is, because I like the look of the tray feathers, sort of like a camo style look, I've gone for 2 light and 1 dark. Now the dark one being the cock feather. So that way, even at a glance, you can still just see straight away that that's the cock feather you're after. So the next part now is the points. Now this shaft I've already tapered, so that's ready to accept a point. And I've got 2 types of points. There's a brass. Now this is a screw fitting point, so that would just go on the taper and then you tighten up and away you go. Good thing with these is obviously you can change them. If you want a heavier weight, you just unscrew them, pop the new one in, and you could do that in while you're actually shooting if you wanted to. So that's one advantage of the screw tip. The other type is, let's see if I can hold it properly, is this little taper fit point. This is only 80 grain. I wanted a lightweight on these particular shafts, so I really want them to go the distance. These are for Dawn to shoot a clout with and a one shoot. So what I need to do is just get those all erudited onto the shaft, on all the shafts, and then away we go with the next step. But first, with the feathers, over to Dawn, because she just wants to tidy them up a little. So see you back here in a minute when we can do the points. Okay?
After Andy's done the fletchings on the arrow, we can see that it has a lovely brown line down one side of the fletching, but an unsightly white line going down the other side. So me being a bit of a perfectionist with my arrows, I like to cover that up by using a Pro Marker permanent marker, using a colour as close as possible to the fletchings. Sometimes you can use a Sharpie type pen depending on what fletchings you're using. So it's a case of just going along the edge and just filling in the colour, and it really makes quite a difference to the finished effect. They obviously absorb quite a bit of the ink as well, so you might have to go up and down a few times just to get a good colour. As you can see, that makes quite a difference.
Okay, so we're now ready to get a point affixed to the end of the arrow. Okay, so I use an epoxy, and the one I use is this one, which is very nicely named Goblin Snot. So it's great. I use Dragon Spit for the fletchings, Goblin Snot for the points, and Arrow Snot as the release agent. We do come out with some very good names in archery. So what you do is squirt a bit out. I'm just using a bit of paper. Now you should get perfect mixture there. Put that on. Then just using an old bit of wood, I just mix that up. Now one of the differences between the Goblin Goo and some of the other glues out there is that this does not smell, which is quite nice actually that it doesn't smell. So once that's all mixed up, I then use the end of the arrow and just put a good coating in there. Okay, then straight onto the point. Now I always twist and turn it as it goes in just to make sure that it gets any air bubbles out and that it's a really good seal. Now that is nice and tight. Now as you can see, there's a ring there of glue that's just oozed out. Absolutely fine, because that's now, see if we can save a bit of it, but that is now going over the shaved area from when I tapered it. So that's now going over that part and is actually putting a layer of protection into that area. So I now will leave this for a while to set. It doesn't take too long, it's fairly quick drying, but I'll probably leave it now just standing till tomorrow with no intention of doing anything else to these shafts until then, just to make sure it's absolutely solid. Okay? Okay, so we're nearly finished with the arrows now. They've been stained, they've had Danish oil on them, pointed, knocked, fletched. Everything's looking really lovely on them now. All I've done is a cheap man's cresting. Unlike putting the paint on that Simon did at the on the other video, what I've gone for is a bit of spin wing tape. So if I just put that up, you should be able to see. That's what I put on there, and it just, all of a sudden the arrow just comes alive because it's given a very clear definition between the stained area and the just treated area. So the very last bit before we shoot them is to pop some name labels on. Okay, so there's the shaft, here's the name labels, and like I say, you're never going to see them. They're white writing on clear back with stuck on a white sheet. So if I peel that off and then put it against, you might be able to see it now. I'm using a pair of tweezers because I don't want any grease from my fingers getting onto the actual stickiness of the label. Then what I do is I just line it up with the cock feather, get that on there, smooth it down with my finger, and there we go. So if I just turn that for a view, hopefully you can now see, actually if I put my jumper there, the arrow just looks so nice now. But that's all 12 arrows now completed. Dawn's going to be shooting them tonight. Hopefully I'll be able to get some film of her shooting them as well. But I'll get Dawn to shoot them tonight and put a little video onto that, and we'll see how they fly. You know, fingers crossed, they should fly great. So there we are, all completed, all finished, beautiful arrows. It's taken over a week to actually make these arrows, but better to take your time and get it done right rather than rush it and make a mistake or something doesn't quite go as it should. So beautiful arrows. Dawn shot them last night, you saw. Needs to shoot them for a few more hours just to bed into how they feel and how they work with the bow. But she was saying they were so much lighter than her normal arrows that she shoots, which is good because we want these for a clout and a one shoot, and also for shooting outdoors, and obviously you're going to need more distance. So it's going to be interesting to see how she gets on with this during the course of the season. Thank you very much for watching. I hope that you've enjoyed watching this and that it's given you some insight, and maybe you'll even attempt making your own. If you do, please let me know. I'd love to see any images that you send over of any arrows that you've made yourself. So I hope this has helped. Please subscribe if you like it. If you don't, then no worries on that at all, and hopefully I'll see you next week with a new video. So thank you very much.